Good morning, everybody, and welcome back to another video. My name is Tom. Thank you so much for joining me here today. Boy, it's been a really long time since I've done one of these videos. In fact, way too long. Um, I, God, I know the last video that I've uploaded was right around the aftermath of Hurricane Helene that happened already a few months ago. And what's really scary is that through all that time that went by, I was in and out of medical appointments, doctor's visits, even some hospital visits, just because I was sick. I was badly sick. And, everything is easy enough to blame on COVID these days, but I don't think this was COVID. I think this was something else. All the COVID tests that I took in the last, well, let's just go back a little bit further. In the last 6 months have been negative. So I don't know if the tests are garbage, which they could be, or if I just caught some really bad infection of some kind that took me out for a while. And we've been passing it around. My son, my wife, and I, she'll get sick, I'll get sick, then Eddie will get sick, and then, the triangle just keeps going. I'm just grateful that the dog's not sick because her medical bills are ridiculous every time she gets sick. Uh, but yeah, anyway, so it's been a few months. Consider this kind of an update update video, because it's been a while, and today is literally the first day that I'm kind of conscious enough, awake enough, and I have the time and bandwidth to sit down and have a chat with you. I will tell you that this is one of the few days of the year that I do wear a jacket because, man, it is below freezing right now. Not much. I'd say it's about 30 degrees or so Fahrenheit, which is what, -4 or 5 degrees Celsius. Nothing crazy, but actually, I don't know if my Celsius conversion is right, but I'll put it on the screen either way for you Canadians that watch my videos. So I'm going to start giving you a little bit of metric as I go. But yeah, so first things first, there's the tree, and that's what's left of it. I, uh, I don't know what to say about it. It's been an undertaking and a half to trim that tree down to what it is now. It actually came up past this stump that's right there that you can see kind of at the end of the tree. Um, it came past it, and then once the leaves started dying, it became much more manageable with a pickup truck and a chainsaw to cut back. Right behind me here on the street, behind my Jetta here, you can see piles of tree that are still there. That's actually the third pile that is waiting to be picked up by the city. They come about once every 10 days or once every 2 weeks with a giant two-trailer truck that comes and gets the remains of that. That other tree that's over there is still down, and I think that'll be down probably till spring because right now it's really cold and nobody is outside. It's really strange how quiet the first week of December has been. People go out just to get into their cars and then they drive away. You don't hear kids anymore. You don't really hear just people outside like you would, um, when it's cold out, but not freezing, if you know what I mean. So, anyway, we haven't gotten much rain since the hurricane hit. We've got like a day or two of just some showers. So the grass has actually been relatively manageable. As you can see, the property is pretty short. There's some areas where the grass is longer, but I don't know if I'll have enough grass growth between now and when the grass dies off for the season to come out with the mower again. As for the Kubota, parked right here, doing really well. Um, it's at about 56 or 57 hours of runtime. I did a video on its 50-hour oil change, and one of the things that's still outstanding is the filter for the hydraulic system, which actually operates the drive and the hydraulics of the deck and any attachments that you might have for it. So that's going to be coming up in a video probably in the near future, hopefully before the next season. Um, Actually, I'll just segue over to the elephant in the room over here. I know I mentioned before that I would do a video on this car, and it's never happened. Between the sicknesses and whatever disease I had, this car has kind of fallen into the background, and it's been. I will tell you, this car has been a phenomenal addition to our family. Uh, Behind me, I'm actually sitting on a chair right now. But behind me is normally where the Bolt EUV is parked. My wife has that currently at her appointment. That's relatively close by, so for her it makes sense to drive the Bolt. I drive thousands of miles every month, and the EUV was just getting to be a pain, and I'll explain that in a second. The RAV4 is doing great. It's kind of our backup vehicle at this point when if my car needs to go in for a service, um, then I use that, and also vice versa. If the Bolt needs to go in for something, we have another vehicle. Also, we can tow with that. I don't know if you guys are aware, but when we drove across the country 2.5 years ago, we towed an 8-foot U-Haul with that truck across the country. So it did really well. Also, let me just go back to the point about the EUV and this car. So this is a 2015 Volkswagen Jetta TDI diesel. It is a 150 horsepower, 2-liter motor, and it's got, leather interior, all the pipes and whistles, and it also has extremely tinted windows, which it came with, and I kind of like it. I just don't like that it's kind of a deep purpley pink tint, so that may get redone with more of a neutral gray tint. It's kind of a weird look when you're driving and the sun's coming in through the window and everything is pink inside the car. I do know this car was owned by a woman, so that might explain the coloring, but considering the car is 10 years old, it is doing phenomenally well. It's got 17,000 miles on it now. So I've put about 7,500 miles on it since I got it earlier this year, and I have already made a road trip with it to Pennsylvania, and it was flawless. It did really well. One of the reasons why I went back to my German roots, many of you might remember some of the videos in the past that I did where I mentioned that I grew up in Germany, and I was born in the US, but I was pretty much raised in Europe, and then I came back to the US in 1994, where I finished grade school, college, and I just stuck around. I never left again. But I remember driving in diesel vehicles when I was a kid, and they were just great, reliable workhorses. Kind of, you think of the same thing as what semi trucks have in their engine bay, the diesel engine, and the reliability is pretty much the same. Now, this being a 2015 model, this vehicle is the last model year of diesel Volkswagens that was sold in the United States. Actually, I think North America as a whole. But that is a video all in its own. The Dieselgate scandal, if you will, when it happened, it pretty much put a wrench into these engines, into these cars, and it pretty much forced VW to pull the diesel engine out of the North American market, which is horrible in my opinion. I get about 850 miles to the tank on this vehicle. I can't tell you how many weeks go by in between fill-ups, even though I drive, God, 25 to 3,000 miles every month, which is impressive. Now, the reason for all that mileage is because we are pretty far away from the nearest city. The nearest city is Spartanburg, and Spartanburg's about 45 minutes that way. And that's if you're following the speed limit. I can probably make it there in a half hour if I decide to take my chances with law enforcement, although I respect them too much to continue to do that. So I typically just set the cruise control and let sixth gear roll. This is a manual six-speed vehicle, which I love. I always felt helpless in automatic vehicles with automatic transmissions. Um, so you can imagine how I felt with the single gear with the EUV. But anyway, this has a lot of ties to my childhood. It also has a lot of ties to my teenage years. I previously owned a 1998 diesel Jetta, and then I owned a 2012 diesel Jetta in California as well. The cars have proven themselves over and over again. The 1998 diesel Jetta that I had finally passed away at about 350,000 miles on it. And that was because a part failed that we couldn't get anymore. It was one of those, there's a handful of parts on these engines that are so tricky to get that most of the time they go on permanent back order and you can never get them again. So I got this vehicle earlier this year. It still has some of the original engine and drivetrain warranty from VW from the diesel scandal when they did the software upgrades and they did the hardware additions onto this car for the pollution mitigation system. That's not what it's called. That's what I call it because it's a very complicated filter urea injection system. This does run DEF, diesel exhaust fluid, and it always smells like a little bit of ammonia, especially when it's cold. When it gets warm, the smell goes away. But cold starts, you got to make sure the garage door is closed, otherwise the whole house smells like ammonia. But it's much better than the alternate version of this vehicle, which throws out nitric oxide pollution, which is actually the harmful um, element, I guess, to us. And this has a system in it to mitigate that. So all around, a very nice vehicle. I always the sound of the diesel engine has always calmed me down. I don't know why. When I was a kid, I had a music teacher. She had a Passat TDI diesel vehicle back in, I guess it was late 90s, early 2000s. She had that car until I graduated, which would have been what, early 2000s. And I used to love hearing that car just drive by with the engine rumbling. These are notoriously noisy cars, and the incredibly high compression that is needed to detonate the diesel, kind of like this tractor over here, just incredibly loud. Now, this one's it's a much larger engine than the one in the Kubota. That one's a 3-cylinder. This one's a 4-cylinder, but those cylinders are the size of like two of my fingers. This is a 2-liter 2-liter engine. So this one's noisier than this one, but that's because of all the piping and all the inline filters and systems in place to do all the pollution mitigation. So great car overall. But I will explain now why I chose to purchase this car um, as more of a tie-in to the Bolt EUV. I did a road trip earlier this year to Pennsylvania, and for those who've watched some of the road trip videos that I've done in years past, like I think I did a couple of videos last year in 2023, Actually, that was the time that the last time I did a Pennsylvania road trip video was when I destroyed the GoPro on the hood of my car because it started raining really bad, and I broke one of the seals that basically make the camera watertight because I was using a cable to keep it charged for all of that mileage that I was putting on. You know, the camera was rolling basically for hours on end, and you can't do that unless you plug it in. So, be that as it is, with the Bolt, I used to have to stop 5 to 6 times between here and Harrisburg, Pennsylvania. So, you figure 640 miles or so, mountains, weather, all of that stuff, and it was inevitable that what I'm about to tell you was going to happen. I I hear Dutchie crying, so let me let her out. It was one of those road trips that I had to charge early morning. It was probably about 8:30 or so in the morning, and I was driving up without Eddie. This was one of those trips that I did by myself. Duchess, come on. Good girl. You don't have to cry. Anyway, sorry about that. It was one of these road trips that I decided to do by myself, and I went up there, and as per usual, I would find a comfortable charging spot, and while charging, I would typically pass out for, I don't know, about an hour, maybe 45 minutes, and I typically left my window cracked a little bit because I would turn the car off and let it charge. Most of the time, I didn't need air conditioning because this one particular charging spot was really great, and that's up in Troutville, um, North Carolina. Is it North Carolina? I don't remember. It doesn't matter. There's that one stop that has a lot of tree coverage. There's a hill. It's off of Bruce Mill Road. Really good place. Loved it. And it was a great place to just turn the car off, crack your window, fold the seat back, and just pass out. Ultimately, what ended up happening was one of these times I set my alarm for 45 minutes. The charger said it needed 55 minutes to get to whatever charge I needed, which typically at that charging station was around 97% in the Bolt to get to the next charging stop. So there are a lot of places through the mountains in Virginia where there's no charging, or at least not fast charging. There was sub 100 kilowatt charging, sub 50 kilowatt charging. Some charging stations were only putting out like 28, 25 kilowatts, and that's just horrible for the state of the infrastructure. But I ended up in a situation where I had kind of a violent encounter with a Tesla owner who was about an inch away from breaking my window, and he was really hostile. I couldn't even keep up with the bad words he was using. He was flipping out that I was taking up a charger and sleeping and not letting him charge because his car would charge in 15 minutes, whereas mine took, over an hour or whatever to charge. And it was just a really bad situation. The hostility got me to the point where I did not feel safe. In fact, it was that day that I decided to start permanently carrying my firearm with me everywhere. And I have multiple carry permits across multiple states now to kind of cover the entire eastern seaboard between constitutional carry and permitted carry. So, as bad as that is, ooh, the wind's starting to pick up. As bad as that was, I decided that that would be the safest thing for me to do in an effort to not get into a situation that I wouldn't be able to walk away from. The hostility and violence that ensued in that it must have been about 90 seconds worth of time. It seemed like 5 hours. I thought, oh my God, I'm not going to make it home to my son. This guy's going to take me out and kill me. Huge guy. Um, I'm not a fighter. I have no problem admitting that. I am not one to, start a fight. I trained in Taekwondo for a year, but I wouldn't openly use that in public for any reason. Just like I'm certified um, in various firearms and tactics and all that stuff. That doesn't mean I'm going to use it on the street. And with the bolt, I was just put into a position where I had to choose between my sanity and my mental state of being versus form and function. And needless to say, I chose the former because the latter uh, put me in a position that I didn't want to be in. And I didn't want to risk potentially getting injured or worse over a stupid charging stop. So I've been saying for years, since 2020, since the first Bolt EV that I owned, I've been saying that the Electrify America charging infrastructure specifically is horrendous. Horrendous. It is absolutely a disgrace to the electric vehicle community. There's no reason why charging stops should have 4 stalls and then 2 to 3 of them don't work, or 2 to 3 of them are charging at the speed of my level 2 charger over here, which is what, 7.5 kilowatts or whatever. Doesn't matter. The point I'm trying to make is these companies make millions of dollars every year, and they can't enforce their own business model upon the public by creating a safe and generally accepted charging station. As far as I know, the charging station in Columbia, South Carolina, is still a disgrace from what it was a year ago when I shot the video reviewing that station, where there were 30 cars waiting to charge and parts were on back order. And then I went back 3 months later, and guess what? The story hadn't changed much. Maybe one more charger was working out of the 4 that were there. So all in all, just a bad adventure. And I used to leave in the middle of the night. I used to do my road trips. I used to leave here at midnight, 1 a.m., and get to my first charging stop at about 2:30 in the morning. And it was okay, but it was the ones further into the trip, like up in Virginia, that made me question, why on earth would I road trip a vehicle that gets 170 miles to a full charge in relatively normal driving conditions, minus the mountains and any weather or climate controls or whatever that I needed to have running for the trip. It was just a really scary situation all around. And I'm not a small guy. I'm 6.5 feet tall. I weigh 365 pounds. I I can probably hold my own if I had to, but I don't know what these people are on that attack me at a charging stop. I don't know if they're, abusers of a substance, or they carry a weapon legally or illegally. I don't know if they broke out of prison or if they're on parole or whatever. You never know what kind of person you can meet at a public charging stop. And I got to the point where I said, you know what? That Bolt EUV is only going to meet this charger for as long as I own it, this level 2. And it hasn't seen a level 3 DC fast charger since. Um, it was about a month after that this car was dropped off in my driveway. And as far as I'm concerned, it was the best money that I could have spent for my entire family, because a road trip that was taking me 16 hours from start to finish is now taking me 7 and a half. with this, because all we have to do is stop at rest stops to, you know, get a drink, use the facilities, get in, get on, get out. That's what we've been doing. Eddie and I already did a trip in this car. It was comfortable. He slept really well in the back seat. His only complaint is that the back seats are not heated like they are in the EUV. But um, blankets, sleeping bags, pillows, they all make up for it. So the best purchase I could have made was that vehicle right there. Here's the Kubota, all in its glory. It has been a while, about a month or so since I've used it. So it's probably about time that I start the engine just to make sure that the oil circulates and everything is lubricated for storage. You're supposed to run an engine every once in a while for at least a heat cycle. So what I'm going to do is um, later on, maybe today or tomorrow, whatever, I'll start this engine, let it run for 15, 20 minutes on uh, maybe a faster idle, and then I'll just shut it off and do it again a couple weeks later. Try to do it every 3 to 4 weeks. Also in this area, it's very humid. And even though in the wintertime it's sort of dry, like I would have to tell you, like my lips are dry right now. I would have to tell you it's like 30, 40% humidity right now, which is unusual. But in the wintertime, that's how it gets here. It is really dry, and you almost need a humidifier to counteract the severely low humidity. Um, and even that, it I still find areas of rust on various metal objects. So that means that any cylinder that has a valve open to either the intake or the exhaust is liable of having moisture in it. So I try to run it to make sure that the oil coverage is solid and that there's no chance for rust inside these cylinder chambers. Um, this is my Blackstone. Uh, this is a perfect example of rust. I actually bought this griddle accessory kit. It should say accessories, but you know, labeling has always been a difficulty for people of other countries. One of the things that's in this box is actually a Blackstone maintenance kit for cleaning, seasoning, and also I got cast iron scrub. This is one of those Amazon specials for Black Friday, and a couple of cleaning bricks that will allow me to keep the Blackstone in shape. I've actually been using it a lot. This is a great griddle, I should say. It's been really good at keeping me honest with regards to my meals, my breakfasts, my dinners, my steaks, chicken, anything that you can find, even some vegetables. Like this picture here, kind of gives you an idea as to what I frequent. Typically, steak and onions is my go-to thing. And I got this oversized burger flipper, which I love just because it fits my hand. It's not tiny, it's huge. Works really well. Yeah. Other than that, the garage is still a mess. In fact, it's more of a mess now because I was doing some digging, trying to find some stuff. Also, I decided earlier this morning when I woke up that I was going to start selling stuff on eBay. So I'm going to do that. I got a bunch of computer gear in here. I got a bunch of Cisco gear from Cisco Systems that is potentially great stuff to do CCNA on, or CCNP actually. I was doing it for a while, but then I ran out of funding, and actually I switched companies to where Cisco was no longer the primary driving force. Juniper Networks was, and now I work with Arista switches and all of that stuff. I know that probably doesn't mean a lot to most of you, so I will leave that there. But suffice it to say, that stuff's going to get listed and sold. My light fixtures up in the office, I've been doing a lot of programming with. I've been doing a lot of effect learning. Even though those fixtures are very old, you know, they're 20, 24, 25 years old, turn of the century fixtures. They're still great. They still do what they need to do, and I could easily hang them up in any venue and do a very good uh, effect show or lighting design with them. So I love them and I use them all the time. And that's actually, I mentioned that because here's the road case for them with gas cans and a folding table and a big pack of toilet paper that we got for any other hurricanes that decide to grace us with their presence. Um, Other than that, I've been getting a lot of stuff down to find all of our Christmas decorations. I did just put up all the Halloween decorations up in that corner above the refrigerator, and that's that. So the garage is a mess, the house is a mess, but hopefully this winter, once things quiet down, we can do more organizing and maybe a sale, move some stuff around and see what can be sold and excess the rest. Duchess is out here enjoying the sunshine. She's been a good girl. She just got her rabies panel done in November. She wasn't happy with me when I did that. Apparently, I didn't let her know exactly how much that shot was going to sting her. So she got 2 shots that she needed, and now she's up to date, which is great. Let's see, what else do we have here? Man, it is still cold. I thought that sun would have warmed stuff up by now, but it hasn't. It's still in the 30s at least. I want to say that that's pretty much it. I don't have anything else to really chat about. Slowly but surely, things are coming back around, and I'm trying to get life back on track. January, I'll full steam ahead with work and projects and stuff like that for the next year. But for December, for the rest of this month, I'm probably going to just take it easy, try to recover some more. Pray to God that I don't get sick again, because that was an adventure that I would never wish on anybody. You know, yeah, November and December have just been kind of, so far. We're only in the first week of December. Actually, we're on the first half of the first week of December. So November, October, I was sick and stressed out and everything. And, you know, election time was obviously uh, in the middle of all that. And, just trying to keep head up and trying to do things that, um, limit stress, limit the body's response to various stressors, and make sure that we don't get sick. I don't continue being sick. Otherwise, I'll just be best friends with my bed and not do much of anything. Um, yeah. Well, guys, I really appreciate you coming into my home. I guess because outside it didn't work out, so I brought you into my garage. So thanks so much for joining me here today. It is freezing, so I'm gonna sign off here. But as always, thank you so much for watching, and until next time, we'll see you. Take care. Bye bye.